wonderful. All right, I see some folks are just filtering in. Welcome, everybody. I know it's been a very long day at the summit. If you guys have had started off with us with our tribute to Glenn DeVries, all the way through the talks for age tech, real world evidence, and postpartum and postnatal and innovators showcases. We are coming to the final stretch of day one. I think we had some wonderful conversations. I know me and Mark were in a networking room earlier, and you guys were talking up a storm. So it would definitely be wonderful to hear a bit more about what you're doing, Mark, right now. And I'll start off this conversation with introducing this small segment that we have here on blockchain in data sharing for more efficient healthcare systems. And I have here Mark Haddle, who is the advisor and innovation director for Baseline Protocol. So thank you very much, Mark, for giving up a bit of time today to talk with us at HITLAB. We'd love to hear a bit of a background of what you've been doing and what you're doing right now.
Okay, well, thank you, and I am so honored to be invited to speak here tonight. I'm Mark Haddle. I am a innovation director, working primarily within the blockchain space. Prior to that, I was I tell myself I'm a recovering risk management broker, or insurance broker, where we basically would do risk assessments for middle market and large Fortune 1000 corporations on basically how they can get a handle on all the sources of risk and really all of the processes and flows. How does it all fit together, and where does it break, and what's the financial consequence of that? But really, most IT architectures are a menagerie of platforms and software packages that are either incompatible or at least non-communicative with each other. And many of the people within a multi-party workflow environment are really not able to share the data that they really need to make that process really efficient, to where you can get the answer that you're looking for, so that you can go ahead and complete the step and move on to the next one. So particularly in healthcare, which has a very robust data privacy framework with HIPAA and PHI, many of the people within healthcare delivery are not able to, and many of them, even if they were allowed, wouldn't want to share the data with the counterparties. So if you look at certain process environments, within a clinical setting, I think the industry has done a really good job of being able to allow the data sharing within a lot of these large platforms, such as Epic, which has really been turbocharged with a partnership with AWS just recently. And wow. But when you start looking at extraterritorial, as we would say, process environments, the data sharing gets a little bit more complicated. And the most common example of that would be within adjudicating a healthcare claim, where you have a patient that has a procedure, an episode of care, and within a week to 10 days after receiving the treatment, they're going to get 8 to 10 pieces of mail in their mailbox, and they're going to be from each provider that has been an actor within the care episode. And many of them are going to say this is not a bill. This paperwork is there to secure the provider's position within the healthcare claim, so that they can ultimately be paid for the service. And the patient at the same time wants to know, I am not up to date on my healthcare plan. I don't know what my copay for this particular procedure is, any remaining uneroded deductible that I may have. How do I sit there? I just want to know my ultimate financial obligation. Who do I need to pay, and how much? And the providers on the other side are saying, well, we have just treated the patient and we now want to be paid for the service. And the payer wants to make sure that they are paying the providers according to the agreement, and it done so in a timely fashion. Generally, it takes a long time to adjudicate a healthcare claim, just because there is no way really for the actors to actually share their data in a way that they stay compliant within data privacy, and also competitive position, but primarily they want to make sure that they are not leaking any identifiable patient data. And blockchain has many just compelling capabilities within this, because you are able to look at it either from a single source of truth, but really you look at it the way to where so many people, it would be so much more helpful if everybody had the same view into the data. But under the current framework, it's just not possible. And when you start looking at blockchain solutions, especially when it comes to supply chain, or when it comes to, I'm talking about the delivery supply chain, clinical trials, anything that is going to require, a sharing of data between multiple parties, it becomes a big challenge. And many of the blockchain solutions contemplate just, at the ideation phase, that they're going to become a dominant part of the IT architecture. And, that they're going to take the existing delivery environment, and either through API connections, our SaaS type solutions, that they can then, then be able to share the data immutably and highly tamper resistant. That really, when it comes to a delivery and an implementation standpoint, becomes quite a challenge, because it generally means that we are assuming that they're going to want to give up their Epic system, or they're going to want to give up an ERP within healthcare system, and that's not going to really be practical as far as a solution. And so what we look at is, how can we use that immutability to enable a proof that you can prove consistency between data sets in a multi-party environment. So how is it that my data, I want to be able to know, I want to be able to, and prove to you that my data matches yours. But I do not want to reveal anything. And so I'm not able to really kind of, do it piecemeal by playing a game of Go Fish or Battleship, as we would say, is, well, this is what I have. Does yours say that? Yes or no? They can't tell you what it says, but they can say yes or no. And, this back and forth, takes a lot of time until everybody is finally synced up. And so what we want to, look at the challenge as, how can we actually implement this without having to rearrange the furniture? And really, you can do this without a substantial financial investment, or really, deploying a lot of IT hardware, software, and talent assets. And so what we work on within Baseline Protocol is, it is a set of tools and libraries that are used to, that within a multi-party workflow environment, that we can prove a state of constant synchronization. And we will know when certain data sets will come out of synchronization, which, if there is if there's an update to a coding taxonomy, or if there is, maybe the data entry person might have fat fingered and transposed two numbers, that's going to show an inconsistency. And that, at least where the inconsistency is, so you can focus it in and solve for it. Within Baseline, we use a technique called zero knowledge proof. And zero knowledge has been around for 40 years, and it's very well known within the cryptographic space. But what this is the concept is fairly simple, even if the math is hard. You have a mathematical formula that will take the data set and crunch it into a digital fingerprint that can then compare it to a fingerprint in the corresponding multi-party, in the counterparty environment. And when those are synchronized, the proof of that synchronization is then stored on a blockchain. So there's never any identifiable data, any sensitive information that is ever shared on any type of shared database, or in any distributed architecture. Really, what this does is, we basically say, my invoice matches your bill, or this particular workup matches what is on your screen and in your systems, because at the end of the day, I cannot send you an example, have you correct it and send it back to me. This is a way that we can actually synchronize using advanced cryptography, comparing the two fingerprints, and you store the proof on the blockchain, because that proof is then shared with anyone else, and anyone else within the workflow can look to see, is my data in sync with yours. And so instead of trying to rearrange the entire landscape on a blockchain solution, start using blockchain, that really deploys its strengths in a middleware environment, to where I can sit back and say, I know that, Bob's data matches Alice's data, and we have a proof of that. And so I have that immutability and decentralization, but I also have that consistency between the two. So if you look at, many of the costs of adjudicating a healthcare claim are in any process environment. When it comes to paying and delivering healthcare services, there's a lot of data and there's a lot of information that is exchanged between parties that really has to be treated a certain way. And right now within the privacy framework, there's a lot of back and forth. It can take 60 to 90 days to adjudicate a claim. But really, and I'm sure I'm speaking to a lot of physicians in the audience as well, not only within adjudicating the claim, but look at, how quickly can you get prior authorization? It has to come from the healthcare payer, and but you're going to have to be able to make the case as to why we need authorization for this particular procedure. And so you don't have to encounter that lag time between the data sharing, till we say, all right, we are at a state to where we can then move forward. You can get to that state through baseline protocol technique almost instantly, provided you have everything that you need, and that the work step is completed. This is a way of knowing that your counterparties, their data matches yours. You can then, in a claims situation, you can then pay, settle, and close. And that's good for everybody, because the provider has been paid for the service. The patient can then go and recover, knowing that, their obligation to anyone within the care episode has been fulfilled, and the payer gets to close the claim. And so, and as everyone says, 20 cents of every healthcare dollar is lost through fraud, waste, and abuse. And most of that comes from exploiting the lag time between trying to get two people on the same page. And so that is what the objective of how we would look at using blockchain technology, which has a lot of baggage to it. So a lot of people hear blockchain and they think cryptocurrencies and all of that. No, we deal in the foundation layer. What makes it all possible? The plumbing.
Well, that's what it's all very fascinating, Mark. I hadn't really, delved that much into blockchain myself in terms of really understanding how it could be used, within the healthcare system. But you definitely make a really good case for it. You talked about all these, these assumptions, and I suppose this, the stigmas behind, the term blockchain. Do you think that's the biggest, I suppose, detractor from why, health systems aren't using it already?
Well, I think really us as an industry, we are still trying to find a way of explaining the concept in a very concise, cogent way that the audience is going to immediately get that aha moment, because there are several different aspects of blockchain technology. But I tell everybody, I said, it's really a way of making sure that everyone has the same copy of the ledger when you look at it. And you have to try and anticipate and listen a lot to say, what is cryptocurrency and what is blockchain. And I commonly tell people, I said, Bitcoin is blockchain, but blockchain is not Bitcoin.
Right.
Blockchain is the foundation layer. It's the plumbing that makes it all possible. Much like a search engine is an application of the internet. Bitcoin cryptocurrencies are an application of blockchain. is really an easy way of putting it, to where they're not the same, but they're very related. And so that's where we really start to work on, separating what is the sizzle and what is the steak.
Right.
I mean, it's really, how does it all work together? Because you have, half of the audience that is really, curious about, what's going on under the hood or the plumbing. Then you have the other half of the audience that say, I just want to know how it works. I don't want to know, why it works and the mechanisms.
Yeah, it's not the way that this. No one really wants to see the sausage being made, so to speak.
No one wants to see the sausage being made, but we run into a problem to where uh, you'll have someone that kind of says, if they ask you the time, you start to tell them how to build a clock. It's like, you're giving them way more information than they need, and they walked away just marginally smarter, but still have a lot of questions. And that's something we've been tackling for the past 10 years now, really explaining, the whole blockchain paradigm. So really a lot of the projects that have been launched out there contemplate, you know, displacing certain parts of the IT architecture. And they really have not expended enough thought about that, to think of, well, first of all, what would it take to actually do that? And would I have the cooperation of the IT management and the CIO's office and stuff? Most likely you wouldn't. So in order to have any type of success in adoption, you need to have something that is simple, elegant, and easily deployed by anyone, with a competent development team that can basically put a feature or a capability that improves on the process using the strengths of the solution, which in blockchain's case is the immutability, highly tamper resistant, and the decentralization, the distributed architecture, to where data updates and synchronization happen in milliseconds. So, and within a healthcare space, there's a lot of lag time to where it's like, I need to know this. Someone over there has that information, but I can't go and ask them for it directly, and they can't provide it to me directly. So that's why really we've had to work within that framework. And I kind of bring up that Go Fish, if anyone's ever played the child's card game.
Right.
Do you have any eights, or do you have any jacks or kings or queens? And until you're back and forth to where you can figure out, yes, okay, we are now synced up. This is a technique of getting to that point very quickly. And in doing that, you take your cycle times down to practically zero. And, the lag time is cut, to a fraction of what it was before. And at the same time, you have the work steps and the workflows completed. So like within a healthcare claims setting, the longer that claim stays open, the less likely you are to be able to recover payment from the different, because the trail has gotten cold. It was a month ago and I've forgotten about it by now. Well, we still have not closed the claim. We're still trying to talk back and forth between the different people that delivered, your episode of care. And so that we can all have the same type of data that we can then go ahead and process the claim, pay everyone, and then close it out.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, that's really, no, it's fascinating stuff, Mark. I am really conscious about the time, because I know we're only meant to be rolling for 15 minutes, but I'm sure we could definitely chat on a lot more about this. But I do have one final thought, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of, you talk about adoption and the baggage that comes with blockchain. I'm sorry. And like, in your opinion, like, is there going to be a point where healthcare systems and clinics and hospitals this is going to be the norm for them to use? If there is going to be a point, and how long do you think that will take?
Well, I think it's interesting. You've got, different types of people out there within the healthcare industry audience, and you're going to have those that really have to work within the constraints of, this environment, that exists for a proper reason. And they're just they have this tone of continuous frustration. But at the same time, you have several cottage industries that are very invested in the process being as fractured and broken as it is. And this is a solution that would considerably disrupt the business models of several solution providers out there. If people are running these very large call centers, when you call in, you call the number and saying, hey, what do I, and most people are saying, is my claim over? I got this bill. What does it mean? And it goes to a call center. And the call center then will take your questions and, we appreciate your concern, and then, try to find the answer. Many times the answer lies on the other side of the exchange and they cannot get it. And so this would basically seriously curtail the need for a lot of these call centers, because most of the people will have that synchronization of the data, whenever it comes to whatever episode. So I think we're there, and we have to keep moving diligently, but definitely start being really, I guess, mindful about it, because what would it take to do this? We spend so much time on the what and the why, and not as much on the how. And the how is really where a lot of the problems run into, because a lot of times you run into, we can't do this because of HIPAA or PHI data privacy, or, well, we just invested millions of dollars in this particular platform and we're not giving it up anytime soon. And with baseline, we say, you don't have to, that's great. All you're doing is all of your data stays within your system of record. This is a way of proving consistency with your counterparty. And doing so, and the only thing ever stored on a blockchain is the proof. And if someone were were to be able to successfully hack that, the only thing they would get would be the plain text of the mathematical proof, which it would just look at, but which they're not even going to understand. No. And so it really, by making sure that there's a problem doesn't exist in the first place, it's really difficult to get panicked about it. So
yeah. I gotcha. No, look, I think it's definitely food for thought for everybody involved, and definitely a conversation. And to your point of just keeping the ball rolling on it, I guess, until it becomes a reality everywhere. So yeah, I mean, look, I think everybody that's on has really enjoyed the conversation. Mark, we've almost gone over double the time that we scheduled. I am getting some word. We do have to pop off because we've got one more segment before the day ends. But really wonderful talking with you, Mark. Everybody else in the audience that's listening in, please do join Mark in the networking rooms if you guys want to hear a little bit more about where blockchain is going, and the adoption within the healthcare system and so forth. So, Mark, real honor to have you on. Real keen supporter of all the HITLAB summits over the last couple of years, and really wonderful to actually have you, speak during one of the segments. So, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Absolutely, and I'm headed to the networking room after that. So if anyone wants to join in, definitely follow me. Perfect. And I put my LinkedIn profile on there if someone can get it. I know the chat will go down as soon as we end, but maybe if anybody can scrape that for a second, it might be.
Yeah, so, sure. We'll give everybody just a minute or two. So yeah, that's fine. Well, cheers, Mark. Thank you very much. I've got to go on to the next, the last segment of the day, and we'll catch up with you again tomorrow.
Very well. Thank you.
Cheers, Mark. See you then. Good night, everybody.